Hey there, Danny here. Welcome to my ramblings. So I shared the video with you last night that I got to go, the privilege to go see a funeral as an outsider. There's been thoughts on my mind since then, and I came across a post. I belong to a private Facebook group for narcissistic mothers, daughters of narcissistic mothers. And one of the posters lost their mother. Sad in itself. But she made a comment how she felt all the emotions and it felt overwhelming. But the biggest part for her and the hardest part for her was to see on Facebook all of these happy Christmas photos and to know she'll never have it. And it reminded me of something. The death of my mother was excruciating hard. Excruciatingly hard. I didn't have a mother like the rest of you did. I don't know what it's like to have a mother that cares about you, that has your best interest at heart. I don't know that. I don't know what that is. My mother said the words, "I love you," all the time. But love is not mean and cruel. And when we were out in public, everybody thought my mother was the kindest, nicest person they met. That woman was horrifically horrible to me as a child. When I was 6 years old, she kicked my dad out. She made him we were living up at, it was a big, huge house that had a bunch of different little apartments in it. But McDonald's and Burger King were going to go in there. So we had to move. We had to find another place. So my dad gave her the money to find a place. My mother moved us into low-income government housing. And she told me later on, she did it on purpose. She did it on purpose. And do you want to know what her reasoning for that was? She purposely kicked my father out of our lives and out of our house because I loved him too much. How the fuck does that even come across a human being's fucking eyes or mind or heart or soul? How? And that wasn't said to me just once. I was also told that that's the reason that he didn't want to be around there, because I loved him too much and it scared him away. Every time she got mad at me or my brother, she would scream at the top of her lungs at us, and she would say, "You guys are nothing, you guys aren't nothing, anything other than what your father is. You're nothing just like your father. You came from him and you're exactly like him." This said to us every time she was angry. But everybody saw the loving, beautiful mother that didn't exist. There are a lot of other cruel things. I won't go into all of them. Those are the two main ones that sat in my soul for a long time, that kept me as a human being from being able to protect myself. Because those two things I knew, but I swallowed them down so fucking far that I didn't have to think about them. And it took my life down the fucking toilet. I made choices because I could not look at the reality of those two things she said to me. Don't get me wrong, as I got older and I got to meet my father, there's one thing that she could never take. One fucking thing. And anytime I got the chance, I threw it in her fucking face. One fucking thing. By the time my dad left the state because she had made his life a living hell, I would tell her. I was 7 or 8 at that time. Anytime she would throw those two things in my face, I would scream back at her on the top of my little girl lungs. And I would say, "You're lying. I know he loved me. I can feel it. I can still feel it." And then I'd get my face slapped. But I didn't care. I still said it every time she told me that he left because I loved him too much. And that I was going to be nothing because so was he. The only person that turned out to be nothing was her. My dad made something of himself. And for the longest time, I held those inside. I told bits and pieces. I may have told a couple of people, but not everybody, and have never shared the pain of it. Not this fully. But I'm going to tell you there's one thing that was the hardest thing to deal with. When you are raised by a mother who absolutely despises you. When she dies, you're not mourning the loss of a mother like everybody else is. After my mother died, I remember looking around at all of these mothers and daughters. They were shopping at Christmas time. They were laughing at restaurants. I saw mothers and daughters everywhere, loving each other and enjoying each other's company. And I was angry. I was downright angry. And I was angry for one reason. Because now that she was dead, I had no choice. I was forced to realize that what I was watching out here in society, I was never gonna have. I got cheated out of it. And nobody could bring it back. I could have other people that loved me. I could have aunts and uncles, step-parents, whatever. You can have other people that love you. It's not the same as having your own mother. And the hardest part about grieving the loss of a narcissistic mother, the hardest part about grieving it is learning to accept that you'll never have that. You'll never have. You just got the final. She put the final nail in your coffin. When you realize, because all that time she was alive, there was still always a little bit of hope in the back of your head that maybe she'd wake up. Maybe she'd see me as a human being. Maybe she'd see me as this great person that I'm trying to be. That little bit of hope that sat in the back of your head. When she dies, you now know there can be no more hope. You never get it. And once you come to the point of learning to accept that that's not something you're going to have, then you start rebuilding your life. And then you start looking at these things and you start going back over your life. And if you've watched any of my previous videos from like a year or so ago, you'll understand exactly what I'm saying. Because back in those ones, I told you about the things that I was doing. That I was going back and looking at everything and changing it all. I was getting rid of all of the preconditioning. I was getting rid of all the lies. I was getting rid of everything that was thrown at me as a child. Mind you, this started at the age of 6. And it went on until I moved out of that house. There were some nasty things afterwards, but I never lived in her house again, so I did not have to tolerate her shit. But I still did to a certain extent. But a child has to go through just those 2 things that I just said to you. That's only maybe like a hair of everything I went through with this woman. As a child. Not as an adult. As a child. As a child, I had to go through this. When she died, and I realized this stuff, this is why I started to look over everything and get rid of everything that I didn't believe in. That wasn't mine. And you know what? It never was mine to hold on to. Never. But I did. I couldn't let it go. I couldn't let it go. And neither can all of the people on the Facebook page that I belong to with the other daughters. Nobody can let it go until that final nail is put in the coffin. And that's devastating. That's just devastating. And then you got one of 2 choices at that point. You can stay in the misery, or you can pull yourself out, pick yourself up, and start building the life that you should have always had. And as you start doing it, the world's so beautiful, it just opens up. Just watch my previous videos. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. I share the good, the bad, and the ugly with all of you. And there are certain videos on here that you will see that you could see that there was irritation in me from certain things. Those were when I was dealing with certain things that were triggering me. And I came on here to share and tell you what you didn't have to tolerate, because I didn't have to. I was sharing these things with you because these were things that I was realizing that I tolerated. And I make these videos in hopes that somebody else sees them and doesn't have to think they're alone with this. Because you're not. There's a lot of us out here who had such nasty mothers that they just despised us. And we knew it our whole childhood. We knew it. Anyways, I'll leave you with that. I just felt I needed to come on and share this. Bye. Love ya.